40-room hotel will be coming to Carolina Beach.
Town Council tonight gave final approval to a zoning change that will allow developers to move forward with the hotel and beachfront pavilion. WECT's Anaya Cromartie heard the developer's presentation and Town Council's vote. Anaya, did anyone speak out against this project?
Yes, Daniela, one person raised a question about having enough parking for the project, which the applicant addressed. Council then voted unanimously to let the project move forward. The Springhill Suites hotel will be located on Carolina Beach Avenue and Pelican Lane, on the site where the Sea Witch Tiki Bar now operates. The plan is to move that bar into the newly built oceanfront pavilion that will also include a ballroom. Visitors will be able to walk from the hotel to the pavilion through a connected sky bridge. As far as the question about having enough parking, a rep from the hotel management company tried to reassure the town and leaders that the public parking will not be a problem.
Well, we've run our parking numbers with the Embassy Suites and know how our parking works there and understand, from our other hotels we operate how the parking works, and while we're going to have more spaces than we need, and again we've also met the town ordinance as well as far as parking goes, but we know we're going to be just fine on parking.
Developers say they hope to start building by August 2026. During construction, they would keep the Sea Witch Tiki Bar open to customers and then transfer the business into the new building. Live in the newsroom, Anaya Cromartie, WECT News.